So what do you think about when you think about NASA? You probably think about, at first, an astronaut. It's pretty obvious. Human space exploration is important, flying around our pale blue planet. You might think about the Earth and looking at the moon, or maybe you think about the moon looking back at Earth, or maybe you think about walking on the moon. And the last time we did that, which was when? Right, 1972. Or maybe you think about Mars exploration, and that would be great because we just watched The Martian and it inspired in us this whole idea of Mars exploration. So we call this the NASA meatball. It has no relation to the recipe. We actually started calling it the NASA meatball in 1975 when we transitioned to the NASA worm logo. The NASA meatball, what does that represent to you? What do you think about? When I think about it, I think about discovery and exploration, about dreaming boldly, about expanding the frontiers of our human ingenuity, about exploring the unknown. I think this quote really summarizes it well. When astronauts fly to space, they talk about what it's like to look at Earth from space. They talk about this dissatisfaction with the state of things and a compulsion to do something about it. So when astronauts get back from Earth, they talk about what it looks like to see the Earth every 90 minutes. They talk about how the borders seem to disappear and how we all seem to be more interconnected and dependent on one another than ever before. We call this the orbital perspective. So imagine if you had this orbital perspective. Imagine if you could see Earth from space. How do you think it might shift your thinking? What would you do differently? So I grew up in North Dakota. This is kind of what North Dakota looks like. We're not known for very much. My family raced cars in the summertime and built engines in the wintertime. And other than farming, that's kind of what you do in North Dakota. So we were also known for this. That's right, buffalo. Not so much this, space exploration. And in fact, I was excited about space exploration, but I never really thought it might be a possibility. I didn't really know anybody from NASA. Well, in 1986, my kindergarten teacher was going to live stream the space shuttle launch. She rolled in this old school TV, one of those old carts that she rolled into the classroom, and we were all sitting there excited that there was going to be a space shuttle launch. And it was a cold, crisp morning in North Dakota. Unfortunately, it was also a cold, crisp morning in Florida, and that led to the Challenger accident. Now, this was clearly a tragedy, but for me, it was something different. It was a pivot point. It was a moment that changed the trajectory of my life. And although I didn't really understand it at the time, it set something inside of me that I could never shake. And it's hard to explain that to people, but I think this really sums it up. Exploration is really the essence of the human spirit. It's something that a lot of us, many of us, most of us maybe, experience as kids. This is what I thought NASA might look like when I got there, if I got there. And it's super close to this. But the thing about it is that you may have noticed geographically, North Dakota isn't actually close to any NASA centers. I didn't know any astronauts, let alone a scientist or an engineer. No one from my family had ever been to college. I had no idea how I would ever be able to realize my bold dream of space exploration. So this is a field in Indiana. And you may notice it looks pretty similar to a field in North Dakota. It's a cornfield, and the North Dakota field's a wheat field, and they're just fields. But the main difference about the field of Indiana is that this is where I met a NASA recruiter. And that really set a new trajectory in my life, and that all started here. So today, I'm a data scientist at NASA, and I'm also a talent strategist at NASA. And the reason is very purposeful. I care about data, and I care about people, because I believe they're the two most important aspects and elements and assets that we have at NASA for shaping not only our individual trajectories, but the trajectory for all humankind. So what were your childhood dreams? What were your pivot points in your life? Whether they were a tragedy or a conversation, or maybe it was somebody impactful in your life, or maybe it was a mistake you made. What are those things that influenced your trajectory? Why are you here today? Have you ever thought about all those pivot points in your own life? So here's one thing we know about space exploration: orbital mechanics. When you set something in motion in space, unless an external force acts upon it, it will keep going in that direction forever. So will your life. So what are you doing? What external forces are you allowing for, planning for, to change your orbital trajectory? So NASA has a lot of lofty, bold dreams. We have a lot of trajectories that lead to new understandings of our universe. One of them is the International Space Station. We've been flying humans in space for 17 years, 6,543 days to day continuously on the International Space Station, which is one of the all-time engineering feats. It's a beautiful structure in space. It's about the size of a 747, a 6-bedroom house, and people live up there. They have been living up there, maybe for the majority of your life. The thing about that is only 556 people have ever actually been able to experience the orbital perspective from space. We want to change that. More tragically, only 60 of these are women. Only 24 of them have orbited the moon, and only 12 of them have actually ever walked on the moon. And the last time that happened, 1972. You guys are paying attention. Good job. So we're trying to do something about that. We're trying to lower the cost from $81 million per seat to space to something much more reasonable so more people can go. That's called commercial crew, and we're building a whole new generation of low Earth launch capability. We also have a lot of probes in our solar system. We're exploring the sun. In 2018, we're going to launch a probe to the sun. We're going to get 7 times closer than we've ever been before, which is only 4 million miles away from the sun. It may seem like a long ways away, but when you think about the sun, that's pretty close. And from an engineering standpoint, that's a really tough design challenge. We also are very interested, for a very selfish reason, about asteroid redirect missions. We're very interested in looking at asteroids up close like OSIRIS-REx will be doing. It just launched in September, and it's going to visit an asteroid called Bennu, take some Regulus sample to understand not only the asteroid better, but also maybe the origins of life. We just launched a mission to Jupiter called Juno. What's really amazing about Juno is it has sensors that will allow us to uncover what's underneath those thick clouds on Jupiter. We have missions that have went farther into the solar system than ever before, farther than Voyager. New Horizons is now past Pluto and moving out farther into deep space. And even beyond that, you may have heard of Hubble Space Telescope. We're about to launch in 2018 a brand new mission called Kepler that will allow us to look deep into the history of our own universe to understand things that we can't even imagine right now. The James Webb Telescope is going to be a feat of engineering, but what's even more amazing about space exploration is what happens when you turn those telescopes, those probes, or those human eyes back to Earth. You start to see our Earth science missions. We have so many missions up there that are focused on our own planet so that we can understand patterns and collect new data that allow new discoveries. And what's really interesting for me personally is those fields that I would get lost in as a kid in North Dakota, or the fields that I would explore around the fall time frame and pumpkin patches and stuff in Indiana, the borders start to disappear. And it starts to look like a beautiful system you never understood before. And you start to look at it a little bit more, you start to realize, well, maybe NASA was actually connected to other places in ways we never saw before. One of the things you think about astronauts is it would be really, really lonely up there in space, so far away from Earth. But they talk about feeling more connected than ever before thanks to technology. One of my boldest dreams, shared by many, maybe you in the room, is this idea of Mars exploration. There's been 6 Mars rovers that have been on Mars. 2 of them are currently active, and we're about to launch another one in 2020. It's really, really exciting. But what's most exciting about robotic exploration is human exploration. These are all precursors to colonization of Mars. We're going to do that. It might be 20 years, it might be 50 years, we're working towards it. And what's really exciting for you is that it might be somebody in this room that has a bold dream that can make Mars exploration happen. So Buzz Aldrin talks about Mars exploration as being a feat of engineering, of human ingenuity that is unmatched ever before. It's a very complex challenge. There's a reason we haven't done it yet. So, what were your childhood dreams? What were your pivot points? What are your pivot points that you're working towards? What is your trajectory? And what are you doing about it? So at NASA, just to give you an example of what your career could look like, it doesn't have to be just a job. It could be a vocation. It doesn't have to be the same thing for many, many years. You might be graduating this year with a degree. I guarantee you have no idea what you'll be doing in a couple of years. So instead of thinking about a job as a career ladder, think about it as a series of experiences. For me, I started at the Neutral Buoyancy Laboratory, 6.2 million gallon water body where we have the International Space Station mocked up. And what my job was to train astronauts to do spacewalks. I had no idea how to do that. I hadn't been to space, but I figured it out. And so we built space station underwater. Then we were talking about exploring the moon. So we designed a new lunar rover that integrated with our spacesuit systems. I was able to apply a lot of the stuff I learned in mechanical engineering right here on this campus to the future of space exploration. It was not something that was taught specifically in class, but I was able to apply my knowledge to something new. Then I went to the International Space University. It didn't look like this, it was in France, but it sure felt like it. Sometimes I felt like I was in a different world. From there, I launched Spaceship One into orbit in 2004, which is now in the Air and Space Museum. It has launched an entire commercial space industry. From there, I became a coach on the Zero Gravity Corporation plane, where I teach people how to fly and essentially manage themselves well in microgravity. If you've ever flown in microgravity, anyone flown in microgravity? It's a really cool experience. I encourage you all to do it. Then I spent some time underwater, living underwater for a while, exploring the coral reefs outside the coast of Key Largo, Florida. This is a place called Aquarius, and the mission was called NEEMO. We were testing spacesuit design underwater. And from there, I went to work with the White House and international leaders, rethinking how we do space exploration, essentially opening up government, because what I recognized was, although I had an experience at NASA, there were so many other people who wanted to work at NASA, but were never afforded the opportunity. So we wanted to fix that challenge. So here's what I know about you. That NASA meatball sticker, if I put that on the table, it will disappear really quickly. And it will show up in the craziest places. I'll be in another country, and a NASA meatball will be on a tram vehicle at the airport hauling luggage. That's because you're brilliant. You are unique. You are designed in a way that you are curious by nature. You are all explorers. You may not recognize it anymore, but as kids, you were all explorers. Selfishly, I want you to work at NASA. I think one of the greatest jobs in the world is space exploration. We literally get to do exploration and discovery as our everyday job. I would love for you to participate in that if you're interested. But what I don't want you to do is tiptoe through your life, not taking risks, and trying to make your way safely to death, taking the safe road. I don't want you to do that. I want you to dream big. I want you to think about what your boldest dreams are. JPL is a saying, they say, dare mighty things. And I think that really encapsulates our challenge. Are you daring mighty things? Do you even know what you're trying to do? At NASA, when we invite people into the adventure of space exploration, we're asking them not to be passive participants in an audience. We're asking them to join us on stage and participate in exploration. And so what does your personal journey look like? I've had an opportunity to work with some amazing students at Valparaiso University. And like me, they shared the dream of space exploration. This is Connor. You may not recognize him because he's wearing a spacesuit. This is an internet sensation. He'll be signing autographs after this session. Connor dreamed of working at NASA, so I invited him to NASA, and he came, and he developed some augmented reality that was projecting data on top of a sandbox that when you moved it, the data did amazing things. And in the future, Connor wants to work in F1 racing and building engines and helping expand innovation there. Dylan, right here, joined Connor this past summer at NASA as an intern. Dylan's really, really interested in sustainability, and in the future, he's going to be looking at renewable energy and thinking about his experience at NASA and how that can apply to his next experience in his career. And this is Matt. Matt takes great photos. I mean, isn't that a great photo? So Matt is a brilliant engineer, but more importantly, his time at NASA, he learned a lot of the things we've already heard today about collaboration, about teamwork, about how teams work well. And then he went on to his next internship experience at Dwyer Instruments, which you'll hear from the CEO in just a little bit about Dwyer. And he's able to apply his knowledge there. So I want to challenge you. I want to challenge you, if you're interested, to think about what should the next goal of space exploration be? But more fundamentally, what are you daring? What are your boldest dreams? Where is the trajectory of your life taking you? And if that's where you want to go, awesome, go do that. And if it's not, I encourage you, I challenge you to pivot now and take advantage of where you're at now and do something about it. We'll be available after the session. If you want to talk about what it looks like to work at NASA or just participate in space exploration, we'd love to talk to you. Thank you.